T. Hey, before we get started, you see, Maxwell did a tiny desk.
Oh, word,
Yeah, you gotta check it out,
bro. I
bro.
seen that. Did you see the locks one, bro?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
liking like who they've been getting lately because
yeah,
it's
me
like
too.
some people are more like, oh, we would have always loved to see them. Then there's some people it's like never would have thought Juvenile or like
Yeah,
the
that
lot
was a good one. Yeah, that
would
was
be doing
definitely a good
tiny
one.
desks. Like I just don't see their music fitting into that setting. But both of them did very well.
Yep.
But you are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I'm your host Kyng Ralph here, my co-host the homie Tar. How you feeling, Brody?
I'm good, man. Tired, boss. I'm tired, but we gonna get this thing started.
Hey, we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it. Hope everybody's doing good out there in TV land. But first, we got to send a shout out to two of our sponsors. So if you want to do a podcast like what you're watching right now, podcast, photo shoot, music video, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fit Boxer. And then shout out to the new one. I brought it up last week. W Energy Drink. If you're looking for a jitterless, clean filling, no crash energy drink, go to W.com. Use promo code JUKE, JUK, for 20% off. And then make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Like the He Say, She Say channel on Facebook, He Say, She Say podcast, coming back in October. We start production this month. Make sure you go subscribe at Juke Media on YouTube, or just type in Joint Universal Creatives with a K. Follow us on Instagram at Juke Sports Show, no more J.U.K. Just straight up JUK Sports Show. You can follow me at KYNGRALPH on TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, add an underscore for X and Twitter. I always mess that one up. But we got a lot to get into before we go get going. Let me take a little swig of my energy drink.
Man, if I had one of those, bro, I'm telling y'all right now, if I had one of those, I would not be tired. But
You surely would not.
I'm being
Right now,
bougie.
I'm drinking that Galaxy Grenade.
I am being bougie right now.
But we got my top 10 quarterback rankings. I've ranked every position. Now we're finishing up with the quarterback spots. I will be posting a graphic of all of my rankings going into the season. Season starts on Thursday with Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm very much looking forward to that one. I think that was going to be a heck of a game. But let's get to it. At 10, I got Jordan Love. Struggled at parts during the beginning of the season. I believe after like week 7 to like week 10 is when it starts to click for him. And then after that, he took off. Very much, there's a lot of parts of his game that you could tell he's under the tutelage of an Aaron Rodgers. And it just, big shout out to the Green Bay Packers, because I can't think of another team that had this string of, you have Brett Favre for 15 years. You got Aaron Rodgers for another 15 years. And now it's looking like Jordan Love could be the next quarterback for the next 15 years for the Green Bay Packers. And it's like 45 years, but you've only had 3 quarterbacks at the helm. And he looks like that guy going into the season. So big shout out to the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. I got him at 9. And Brock Purdy, I got him at 9. I got Jordan Love at 10, Brock Purdy at 9. Brock Purdy is one of those ones where the same thing when we had the conversation about Tom Brady. It's not to say that they're not good at what they do. It's just when you have certain amount of help is where I could see the negative things. But the Brock Purdy is accurate, throws with anticipation, can move in the pocket, and I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does for that team, because to some people feel like he got the super friends. When I talked about the running back position, the wide receiver position, the tight end position, I didn't even get to the offensive line, where he has maybe the best at their position, or if not a top 5 or top 10 at their respective positions on his side. But like I mentioned before, throws with anticipation, doesn't turn the ball over like he did in college. And he makes the plays when they need to be made. And I don't think that part can be understated. And so at 9, I got Brock Purdy. At 8, I got Justin Herbert. Arm talent, putting up numbers, hasn't quite had the playoff success that you would have liked to see from someone with so much hype around him? A lot of times when people start talking about quarterbacks, as far as just strictly the talent of the quarterback position, Justin Herbert is one of the first 5 names mentioned. And so, but the numbers that he's putting up year in and year out is the one of the big reasons why I have him in this on this list. But also, it's more of a ranking and a projection type of thing, where I believe getting Harbaugh as his coach is he has a track record of changing organizations and being a winner at the end of the day. Being in a Super Bowl as a coach, winning a natty in college. Now he comes to the Chargers, and I think the sky's the limit for Justin Herbert. And so at 7, I got Jalen Hurts. Heck of a season. 2 years ago, I think he was he second team All Pro? Or was he first team All Pro?
I think he would. Wait, Jalen.
Or did he even make an All Pro?
I don't know.
He would have been. He would have been had he not got hurt.
It would have made sense for him to be a first or second team All Pro because, yeah.
But yeah, he struggled last year, and for whatever reason, coaches changing, injuries, whatever you want to put it, I think that he has the talent. Has showed that when he does put it all together, he has the talent to be a top 5 quarterback. Last year, he did have a down year, so that's the reason why I'm gonna put him a little lower than maybe some other people would have him. But I think 7's a good spot, given everything that he has accomplished, can accomplish, and brings to an NFL team. At 6, I got C.J. Stroud. Y'all know going into the draft, I talked about him being the best quarterback in that draft. He ends up going 2 to – was it 2?
Yeah, he went 2.
Yeah, it was Bryce Young 1, him 2.
Yeah.
He has a heck of a rookie season, to the point where we argue whether or not that was the greatest rookie season of any quarterback. I think that what he does as far as not turning the ball over was one of the things for me that was the part I didn't expect. I expected him to be able to throw it into anticipation. I expected him to be able to sling the rock. But it was the ability to not turn the ball over and not throw interceptions as a rookie quarterback, where I feel like when certain conversations and certain media outlets, I feel like they tried to compare his season to Jordan Love, where I feel like for majority, it might have been 2-3 weeks out of the season where he might have looked like he struggled. But for majority of the season, he looked like he had command of the team. He had fourth quarter comebacks. The last drive of the game, go get a field goal, go get a touchdown. And he was coming through, through with accuracy, didn't turn the ball over, and has a sneaky mobility to him. And now he has a slew of weapons. Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell is back, Nico Collins. And I feel like there's been a lot of talks of whether or not he'll have a sophomore slump. I personally don't think that will happen, but we'll see what happens. Going into the top 5, I got Dak as the number 5 quarterback. The year that he had last year, Dak was balling. I feel like at the end of the day, when it comes to Dak, I feel like the conversation is we're kind of to a point in his career where it doesn't really matter what he does during the regular season if he flames out in the postseason. And once you get further in your career, that's just the nature of the beast. Not to say that nobody cares about what you do in the regular season. Yes, going 12-5 is a great thing, but at the end of the day, if you're go 12-5, win the division, and you're one and done in the playoffs, none of that really matters. But he had a heck of a year last year. I feel like going into this season, certain players being cut, traded, retiring, I feel like they are putting a lot on him. Now you got to go and produce if you want that big contract that you're looking for. And I think that is the part that to be seen. I feel like he has to perform in the playoffs in order for him to be able to get that top dollar that he's looking for. I feel like going these 12-5s and being one and done in the playoffs is not going to get you $60 million, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but from Jerry Jones has always been he just make dumb decisions. So it's like it's possible he could mess around and end up doing it anyway, but we'll see. Josh Allen, who I'll talk about later, whether or not the players feel like he's overrated. I'll talk about whether or not I think he's overrated. I actually have him as my starting quarterback in one of my fantasy drafts, and so I think Josh Allen. There's issues that I have with Josh Allen because I've been someone that talks negatively about, but I just don't like the way that people talk about Lamar Jackson after everything he's accomplished in the regular season, and then Josh Allen ain't really did much of that from an individual accolade standpoint. But also he gets thrown in this conversation with Mahomes where Lamar gets left out. And that's the thing for me where I'm just like, I feel like it's Pat Mahomes and then everybody else is down here. I don't feel like any of them are up there if Lamar is not. And so when it comes to Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen is the white Cam Newton. He's going to run you over. He's going to have rushing touchdowns. He's going to have rushing yards. He has a big arm. He's going to force it in there. But the thing with him is you are going to have to deal with some turnovers. And that's the part for me where I'm the turnover aspect when it comes to throwing the ball, the interceptions that he throws, sometimes fumbling are the reasons why I'm not having him as a top 3 quarterback. But when he's on, and he has, and I feel like 4 through 2 is really interchangeable depending on what you look for. And so at 3, I got Joe Burrow, although he is coming off of an injury, an injured year. I do think that he's shown he can beat Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. He's Joe Cool, accurate, sneaky mobility, can be a leader of a team. I feel like I trust him more than I would Josh Allen, which is why I have him at 3. But the year that he had as far as the injuries, I hope this doesn't become a pattern. And so at 2, I got Lamar Jackson. Y'all know if you've ever watched this show, you know that how I feel about him. I feel like, yes, going back to last year, some of those other years I was willing to at least fight for him. But last year, he stunk it up when the game really mattered. Whether or not you feel like likely got held on the interception that he ended up throwing, that's a conversation for another day. But for the totality of that game, he just didn't play to the level at which I expected him to play. But I do think that Lamar Jackson mobility can break out a big play, has started to be able to throw from the pocket, moving the pocket, show accuracy down the field on hitting on outside of the numbers, inside the numbers. And this year, I think it's going to be the year. I know we said it last year, but I feel like I feel a little bit more comfortable now with Zay Flowers getting his going into his second year. The offensive coordinator, now you're year 2 in that offense. I feel like this is going to be the year that Lamar Jackson will be able to put himself in a serious position and be able to win a championship and put his name in that category to where he can start getting closer and closer to Pat Mahomes. But like I mentioned before, I think Pat Mahomes is so far right now that he's clear-cut number 1, and it'll take a lot for someone to be able to get even close to him. And so right now I got Jordan at 10, Brock at 9, Justin Herbert at 8, Jalen Hurts at 7, CJ Stroud at 6, Dak Prescott at 5, Josh Allen at 4, Joe Burrow at 3, Lamar Jackson at 2, and Pat Mahomes at 1. How you feel about my list, bro?
Oh, I love the list. It's really dope. For me, this is not a shit on Dak Prescott situation at all. I would put Matthew Stafford in front of Dak only because I've seen Matthew Stafford get it done in the playoffs, and I've seen Matthew Stafford get it done with less. Last season, to me, is why Matthew Stafford, to me, should be a top 10 quarterback based off of the fact that who the hell is Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams before the season?
True.
They weren't, like we know that Dallas is always going to have marquee playmakers and marquee players. And Dak got it done last year, right? But he didn't get it done when it mattered. And Matthew Stafford balls, in the playoffs, right? Like he balls, and we've seen him, like when all the chips were in the center of the table, right? When the Rams gave up everything to get him, he went out there and won, right? they bet on him, and it came up. The Cowboys are in a situation this year where they're betting on Dak Prescott, and kind of in the same situation, like minus the trade or whatever. He wants his money, right? But minus the trade situation or trade scenario. And if they bet on them and whatever they bet on doesn't come to fruition, then it's like we've bet on you before and you gave us nothing. We're betting on you this year, and you better produce something. Where like Matthew Stafford showed that he's a safe bet, right? So
True.
that's the only reason why I would put Matthew Stafford, and I'm not even saying he's number 5 because I know you had Dak on your list, but I put him up in the 10-9 range, but Matthew Stafford definitely to me is a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, I struggled, and I kind of was thinking about. I ended up putting Jordan Love as over Matthew Stafford just for the sake of where they are in their careers right now.
Yeah,
although I do think that Matthew Stafford is definitely that guy. I think that he's very underrated in what he does and offers. I think for so long, those years that he played for the Detroit Lions, and how often, although those teams weren't good, but I just think that when it comes to playing the quarterback position, people have this idea that if you're that guy, it don't matter how bad your team is, you should be able to get to the playoffs and whatnot. But it's like, look at my teams. Like, look at
right.
Like,
yeah.
I was just expressing to somebody the other day. I was like, yo, if I throw 4 touchdowns and we lose 31-28, you can't be mad at me. Unless it's like I do something to throw the game at the end of the way. But it's like consistently scoring 3 to 4 touchdowns every game, and then you're still losing 27-30, 31-28.
Look at the hat I'm wearing, bro. We Raiders fans hated Derek Carr for so many years until you have 6 different quarterbacks. Now Derek Carr's not that bad, right? Raiders have had 5 or 6 different starting quarterbacks since Derek Carr left, right? Sure. So that's you know what I'm saying. So that shows you like consistency, like how consistency and 20 touchdowns, 3,000 yards every year. You can't sneeze at that. 4,000, 3,000 threshold, 20 touchdowns. You did your job as a quarterback, right? So you can't underutilize that.
And so we're going into the predictions part of the show. Doing everything from division winners, rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, coach of the year, MVP. Even going to talk about who we expect to be in the Super Bowl and Super Bowl winners. But let's get into it. So NFC West, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rams because I think they're going to be a lot better than people expect them to be. What's my man? Is it Kobe Young? That's the D tackle that they got last year
from the Rams.
Williams, Puka, Cooper Kupp. I feel like they have the talent to be able to put up numbers while also getting stops, create pressure. But at the end of the day, I do think that the 49ers low-key got the super friends, and everybody's signed back now. Ayuk has been signed back. Trent Williams finalizing his deal today. George Kittle is still there. Debo is there. Fred Warner, a list of guys. Like I mentioned before when I was doing my rankings, 49ers were a team where they had someone in that top 10 at damn near every position I talked about. And so I just feel like at the end of the day, they're going to be a little too deep for the Rams to be able to make up that ground. But I wouldn't be surprised because of how well, regardless of how bad the Rams have ever been, even at their worst, they still put up a fight against the 49ers.
My biggest problem with the 49ers is they hired Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator. Brandon Staley is ass. I don't like that move at all. Like, he's terrible, right?
And wasn't he the Chargers?
Yeah, that's the Chargers coach, bro.
Yeah, all right.
Brandon Staley. And the simple fact that they fired the black man who got you to the Super Bowl, and it wasn't his fault that y'all lost the Super Bowl. And you scapegoated him to hire Brandon Staley. I hope them niggas lose forever. that move is terrible. Brandon Staley is not a competent head coach. He shouldn't coach JV, let alone the NFL.
I'm going to South to be a middle school football coach.
I don't want him, dude. Bro. He he couldn't manage my fantasy football team. Like, I don't want that. He couldn't, bro. He couldn't call my defense on Madden.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
terrible. So
Yeah.
that would be my only pushback with the 49ers is him. And it just depends on how he looks. And I could be wrong because here's the thing, like, yeah, he did well as a Rams defensive coordinator, but at the same time, like anybody who is in the same breathing area as Sean McVay becomes a good coach. And then when they leave Sean McVay, he's kind of the new Belichick. Don't really do shit. So it's kind of like, I don't know. We'll see though.
And so in the NFC, moving to the North, I got the Detroit Lions. Although, honestly, that one can go any way. I think the Bears have a sneaky good chance. I think that the Packers have a great chance. I feel like that one is there's as much as I'm going with the Detroit Lions. In the end, I'm not super confident that there is no other way for any other team to win, but I feel like the Lions are the best team in the NFC North, although I do think that the Bears are very much improved. Good defense, weapons for Caleb Williams to get the ball to. It just how many turnovers is Caleb Williams going to have? Like I mentioned with CJ, a lot of their success is because the defense is playing tough defense, but also I'm not giving you extra possessions.
Okay.
But I'm also making plays down the field. Can Caleb make plays down the field and not turn the ball over? And I feel like in the end, if he can do that, then they'll be in that running with the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. But I am going with the Detroit Lions to win the NFC North.
The key with the Lions is Dan Campbell not being a dumbass. Dan Campbell, you got to kick field goals and you got to punt the ball. You got to stop. You got to stop playing Madden, right?
Right.
The thing about it is your division is get better, so much better now that you can't afford to be ballsy and cost your team games because in the standings that matters, right? You know, like last year, there's breathing room for you to, go 12-4 and make those mistakes, like those decisions. But those decisions cost your team a Super Bowl, like straight up. Like you're the reason why they didn't go to the Super Bowl. You're the reason. So you got to stop being the reason why your team loses because you make stupid decisions, like you really do. So that's that again. If Dan Campbell doesn't make stupid decisions, Lions all day. If he continues to make decisions, screw them. I got Packers, but he can't make stupid decisions.
True. Yeah, I think that is a very good point. I feel like some of those plays that, he definitely does. He's definitely playing Madden, not punting, not giving field goals, going for it on fourth, and it's like, bro, you're in the playoffs.
You're up 24-7 on the road. Like take the points where you can get them. You're gonna win.
Right.
And you're the reason. He's solely the reason why they're not in the Super Bowl. He's the reason. Like straight up.
And so moving over to the East, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. Mm-hmm. Although I do think that coming back from those injuries, if players can not be hurt, Dak and CD play like they played last year, you still get complimentary football out of Zeke. And Dalvin Cook ends up working out. I can see them still being able to win this division, but with the slew of additions that the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm gonna side with the Philadelphia Eagles winning the East. I think Jalen Hurts is gonna have a better year of health. He has way more help. Saquon Barkley being able to catch out of the backfield. Now his thing is, can he stay healthy? But I do think the additions on defense are going to pay dividends for them in the end. And I don't think that the defense will be as bad, which is one of the major reasons why I feel like they weren't as good last year either, is that defense. I've seen better tackling in FCS college football.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I have no objections. And the thing too about the Cowboys, they just lost Deron Bland for a little bit of time. They're switching from Mike Zimmer's defense, or switching from Dan Quinn to Mike Zimmer. So that's an interesting thing. And Mike Zimmer hasn't called defense in like 3 years. So it's like, oh, yeah. So the last time they called a defensive coordinator off the couch didn't go very well. So that's the only thing, the turnover. But I definitely like Philly. Too much talent. Better coaching. And not only that, I think Nick Sirianni is coaching for his life, because if he doesn't do well, Bill Belichick, is a phone call away. So I like Philly.
Yeah, and with Philly is like Philly is ruthless. I don't care that you got us to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here, bro. Like, look at old boy, the Jaguars coach. Like,
oh yeah, Doug Peterson.
Yeah,
won a Super Bowl, still got him out of here.
Yeah.
And so moving over to the South, I think the additions of lately, I pretty much had it kind of like a toss up. But once I seen they got Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon, I just feel like the Falcons, there's no reason the Falcons shouldn't win this division. I feel like it's up in the air. The Saints could win. Tampa Bay won last year. Definitely not the Panthers. That's just get better for the future.
Right.
But when it comes to the Falcons, it's like you have Kirk Cousins. Even if he ends up getting injured, I still feel like Michael Penix can step in and be a competent quarterback. You got weapons, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. And I just feel like there is no reason why they shouldn't be the favorite. So I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons to win the NFC South.
I agree. Nothing really to add. I agree.
And so this one pains me to say, but it's what it is. I do think it depends on how much can John Harbaugh. Is it John or is it Jim? I was fucking
Jim. It's Jim.
John's the Ravens coach.
Ravens coach, yeah.
All right. So Jim, it depends on how much Jim can sink his teeth into that team and how much juice can he squeeze out of that lemon or orange, whatever they say. Because I think they have the talent to be able to play good football with anybody.
You do?
I do think I think some of the offensive weapons that they lost, it depends on how much wasn't it, but I feel like defensively, I feel like they have had the talent. It's just whether or not can people stay on the field.
They run a 1985 offense. There's no way in hell. They have the Ravens coaching staff, and you see what they did with Lamar Jackson. Like, and Lamar Jackson, the Ravens had way more talent than they did. Like,
yeah, I am kind of curious because
their tight end is always their number one receiver. They don't have a tight end. There's no Mark Andrews or Vernon Davis there.
Yeah,
like no. Will Dissly is a blocking tight end. There's no way they're going to run the ball very well. I think they're going to run the ball very well, but I'm not encouraged that Justin Herbert has a plantar fasciitis in his foot, so he's not healthy. Quentin Johnson showed me absolutely nothing last year. Ladd McConkey's not bad. And then you got the other wide receiver that used to be on the Jaguar, DJ Chark. Yeah, that team is trash. I'm sorry. I don't see it. I don't know. And I'll be shocked if they're good. I'll be the first person on here to apologize. That team is absolutely trash. I don't see.
I do think because I don't know. Maybe it's because I just trust Jim so much.
I don't. I absolutely don't. I don't trust him at all. I think his first decision that he made wrong was hiring old boy that he hired, the Ravens offensive coordinator. He was garbage. True. He should never. True. He shouldn't be close to football. He's bad. Like, he's not a good coordinator. I'm sorry. Like, he's good for 1 year, and then after that, like, you run the 22 formation. That's like 1985 football. Not good. Like, it doesn't translate to this day and age of football. Steve Smith goes off on him every time because Steve Smith played under it. He was like, "Yo, this shit does not work. It don't work." And then so it's like you're trying to tell me, like, you had Hollywood Brown and you had all these, little short, fast receivers. You're telling me Quentin Johnson can fit in that mold? And absolutely not. It's crazy. Like, they don't, like I said,
got hands of stone.
They like tight ends, and they don't have a tight end to throw the ball to. So Ladd McConkey's going to be their de facto tight end, and he's small. He's going to get cracked in the middle. So
Yeah. So I guess maybe I'm wrong. It's not close. Nobody's beating the Chiefs. But in the end, I already had the Chiefs. I just was kind of.
I think the Raiders give Chiefs work. I think the Raiders give the Chiefs all kinds of work. Just the simple fact, the Chiefs' offensive line is going to be their weakness. They never have a really good offensive line. They have a rookie starting at left tackle. The right tackle is the worst right tackle in football. Like, I'm not even hating. It's literally a thing that he's the worst right tackle in football. So you got Max on that side. Now you got Christian Wilkins. Like, the Raiders will beat him on the inside. The thing about it is we can run. We got a big offensive line. We can run. The problem with the Raiders is going to be Gardner Minshew if he's going to turn the ball over, because Gardner Minshew will save them and bring them back from turning the ball over. And that's the only thing. If we don't turn the ball over, the Raiders will make games ugly for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs can be had. You just got to stick to your guns and run the ball. Like, and teams just don't want to run the ball on the Chiefs.
Yeah. I don't get that. It was weird.
Yeah, the Ravens last year in the playoffs, that pissed me off. I've never been so pissed off watching a game in my life. Y'all been running the ball since football's been incepted, and all of a sudden you want to throw the ball around the yard 60-something times? Like, bro, that's not your style.
Yeah. It was weird because it was like, they've been running the ball all year. They've been running the ball.
They've been the number one ranked rushing team since helmets were leather, and all of a sudden y'all niggas don't want to run the ball. Like,
yeah, true, big facts. So moving to that division, I got the Cleveland Browns winning. I think that I want to pick like the homer in me because I am low key a Ravens fan, so I want to pick the Ravens, but I want to be biased and unbiased and not pick them. I feel like anybody in that division, when it comes to when they actually play each other, they're always tough games, and like, yo, that's wild. But
it's the Cleveland Browns and it's the dog pound going crazy in the back. That's crazy.
That's exactly what I was like. That's actually kind of funny.
Get your shit off.
But I think with the uncertainty of Jamar Chase and what's going to happen with that, if he misses one or two games, that can put them behind the 8 ball. I feel like them losing like Jesse Bates last year was something that suffered. So now it depends on the additions of like a Geno Stone. What does he give you? Even though I think he had 6 interceptions last year. So he has shown that he can catch the interceptions and be a playmaker on defense. But in the end, I just feel like the Cleveland Browns are one of the better defensive teams. And Deshaun Watson did show a little bit of improvement. If he can just be someone who's not turning the ball over and just play complementary football to that defense, I feel like they can give anybody fits with how good that defense is. So the inner part of me, my heart says Baltimore Ravens. For the sake of me not being a homer, I'm going to go Cleveland Browns.
I'm going Ravens just because the addition of Derrick Henry means everything to me. I love that addition. And yeah, like I think they got their defense is growing. I think they got the best secondary in the league. I love their secondary with Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
But the addition of Derrick Henry and then developing wide receivers, you got Zay Flowers. I like a whole lot. I like the Ravens. I definitely think, and my biggest problem too with the Cleveland Browns is Deshaun Watson. How's his shoulder doing? He's already been saying that he has fatigue in his arm, which isn't good, which isn't a good sign already. It's not a good sign. Can Jerome Ford be an every down running back too? Right.
Right.
So those are a few questions that I do have. But shout out to my boy Joe Batonio, Nevada Wolfpack, it's the homie. Trying to get some tickets off this nigga, but that's another topic for another time. But week 3, I think week 4 we played them. I'm trying to get tickets from the homie, but
hey, that'd be lit, bro. I hope you get them. And then, so moving out to the East, I really feel like Josh Allen's going to keep Buffalo in the hunt, although I think they are going to regress. I still think they're good enough to make the wild card, but I just don't see them being good enough to win that division. The Dolphins got all the offensive firepower. Tyreek is trying to say that this is one of the better teams, the best team he's been on with Miami since he's been in Miami. But I do think that the offensive weapons, defensive weapons, and the IQ that Aaron Rodgers can bring has the potential for them to win the division. can he stay healthy and can he be a shell, even as a little bit of what he was before? I feel like even as good as that defense was or is, if he can just be what his last year in Green Bay was, I feel like they can win that division. And so I am going to go New York Jets to win the AFC East.
I like it. Yeah, it's to me. It's between them and the Dolphins. Hassan Reddick, I don't know what he's smoking. He don't want to be there for some strange reason. I don't know. But if they can, if they even get him back, that's even a thing. Because the Dolphins, don't forget, Jalen Phillips is coming back from Achilles.
Yeah.
Bradley Chubb is coming back from ACL. Their
Yeah.
defense is going to be completely different. They were hamstrung with injuries. Christian Wilkins left, so that's a big loss for them too. They're going to score a lot of points, but what is their defense going to do? That's the problem that I have with the Dolphins.
Facts. And so we talked about it off camera. I do think that the Colts have a chance. I think I've seen some things out of Anthony Richardson that gives me, if I was a Colts fan, that gives me some hope. I think an RPO type of thing with him and Jonathan Taylor can go crazy. And then some of the additions and on like a Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, I'm like, didn't they just draft a wide receiver too?
Yeah, Donai.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I think that they have the weapons, good young weapons, and they'll be able to do what they do. But I do think they're a good young team that can put up a fight against the Houston Texans. But in the end, I do think that the Houston Texans are just a better football team. I think they're better coached. I think that they have better players, and the additions that they got from year to year, last year to this year, I just think that they're by far the favorite, and I don't think that it will be that close in the end. I don't see Jacksonville because I just truly just don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. Now, this is like you mentioned earlier. I could be wrong, and in the end, I will come back, say, hey, I was completely wrong. He is worth that money that you gave him, but I just don't feel like he's going to live up to that contract. So I'm going C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans to win the AFC South.
I actually think that's going to be a sleeper division. I think that Tennessee got a really, really, really good in the offseason. Like, they had a really, really good offseason. I think Jacksonville had a really, really good offseason, but it's just the two young quarterbacks. Like Will Levis, will he have a sophomore slump as a storyline? But it's going to be if he doesn't do well, you can't blame the organization because they gave him a Calvin Ridley. You still got D-Hop. They gave him Tyler Boyd, so you got wide receivers across the board. He has two good running backs. They have a strong offensive line. They've added to their defense. They got the cornerback from the Chiefs. They just traded for the linebacker from the Rams. So, I mean, they had a pretty good offseason, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if they were good. It's just they're going to go as far as Will Levis takes them. Same thing with Jacksonville. If they don't do well, you can't blame coaching or organization. You drafted Brian Thomas. You added a wide receiver in the offseason. And so it's just really going to come down to how far Trevor Lawrence takes them, right? So I do think that if we talk about wild card, Tennessee or Jacksonville could be very good sleeper wild card teams, in my opinion. Even the Colts could be a sleeper wild card team, but I think that's where like the wild card. I think between AFC South and the Steelers division and the Ravens division, I think that's where the wild cards are going to play.
And so moving over to now, we got the awards. We're going to do Offensive Rookie of the Year. I was really high on him going into the draft. Really, this one there's a couple different ways that you can go, honestly, because I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get his opportunities. Malik Neighbors is going to get his opportunities. I feel like Caleb Williams is another person that everybody had all this hype going into it. He's shown to be at least there's definitely show glimpses of that hype coming to realization in the NFL. But I am going to go with Jaden Daniels. I think that his ability to throw the football, ability to on time while also being able to stretch plays. One thing that does kind of scare me is his frame. And it kind of reminds me of like RG3, where RG3 was fast running in a straight line, but wasn't as shifty in getting out of the way. So I hope that he can learn those mistakes, get to the ground, slide when need be, instead of trying to make that extra play, just get down and get to the next play. But I think that the weapons that he has, Terry McLaurin, Ben Sinnott, Austin Eckler coming in, being able to catch out of the backfield, still having Brian Robinson, De'Ami Brown, who I feel like played well enough in the preseason, which is why they felt good getting rid of Jahan Dotson. And I feel like he has enough weapons to where in the end he'll be able to do both on the ground, through the air, and he's in a division to where he could win some games and put them in a position to possibly be up for a wild card. It just depends on what they have on defense, because they, year after year, they had this really good young front seven, and then they just piece by piece keep trading them away to. So it just depends on what they've been able to get back, how well that defense plays, because I feel like they have offensive weapons.
Yeah, no, I love Jaden Daniels. He was my favorite quarterback in the draft, but I'm going Caleb. I just think Caleb's weapons are just or like way too much. It's just an embarrassment of riches. You have Keenan Allen, you got DJ Moore, and then you got Roma Dunze in the slot. You got DeAndre Swift in the backfield. And then Shane Steichen, not Shane Steichen, I'm sorry, Shane Waldron as the offensive coordinator, who's a very good offensive coordinator. He's the one to me that resurrected Geno Smith's career. And if you look at the offense that he was in, similar offense, you had DK, you got Tyler Lockett, you had Jackson Smith and Jigba, two really good running backs. I think they were built the same way. And I want to say Geno Smith won comeback player of the year, right? So I think that the success that, he had in that offense and looking at the weapons is similar, very, very similar. And I think that Caleb Williams offers you more of a dynamic skill set than Geno Smith did, and Geno Smith's best year under them. So with that being said, I like him. And I think the league is going to like him too, because I feel like that's who the league will vote for, because they want him to be successful, right? So I think that's going to end up being, because you see him being the future face of the league. So essentially, they're going to vote for him, right? So I like that. I think it's going to be Caleb Williams.
All right. And with this one, I went a couple different ways, because I do think that, like, I thought about some corners that played on – that are going to get certain opportunities. And I think of like Kamari Lassiter. I think of Terry and Arnold. I feel like they're playing in behind front sevens that are going to get after the quarterback. And you're going to get a lot of quick throws, opportunities for you to get interceptions. And I feel like those are two people that could possibly, in the end, be able to put up numbers. Lassiter for the Texans, Arnold for the Lions. But in the end, I do think I always mess up his name. Is it just Latu, right?
Yeah, Latu. Yeah.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure, because I'll be butchering names. I'll be practicing watching videos, and I get on this stream and start still butchering name. But I do think in the end, although right now they do have him listed as the number 2 defensive end on behind Kwity Paye, but I do think that in the end, I think you'll be able to see him putting him on the other side of him, while also DeForest Buckner is going to give him opportunities to where he'll be able to get one-on-one opportunities rather than a shed or not a shed, but a chip is what I'm thinking of. But I think he'll be able to get opportunities. I can see him. I think Dallas Turner has a perfect opportunity, but I feel like going into the draft, he was the most complete edge rusher. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he'll be able to step in day one and be able to get and make plays. So in the end, I do think that he'll be the defensive rookie of the year. But some of those other people are names that I wouldn't be surprised to see in that.
No, I definitely agree. That's mine as well. Dallas Baker's another name to keep your eye on too as well. But I like Latu. There's nothing else to say. I like him.
And so, offensive player of the year, I feel like this. I feel like it's with. I wanted to go Tyreek, but I was just like, I just don't see him year after year after year. I feel like at some point, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna let Jalen Waddle do it. I'm not gonna keep letting Tyreek go for all these yards every year. And so I went with Justin Jefferson, although he has Sam Darnold. But I think that he's shown when healthy, he can put up numbers to where you finally start to see, like, for me, I still think Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league. But if Justin Jefferson could come in this year, ball out, go crazy with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, I feel like he's just that guy at this point. And so I feel like he can do it. He's someone that's a chain mover, but also has the ability to make the big plays regardless of who's throwing him the football. And so although I was a little excited to because I've seen what JJ McCarthy was doing, but him getting hurt and having Sam Darnold, I still feel like he has an opportunity and can put up those numbers, but we'll see what happens.
I'm kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. I'm leaning toward Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions running back. Um, I think he's going to get 2,000 all-purpose yards. That's rushing and receiving. Um, I just think the way that the Lions are going to use him, because it's like I'm thinking to myself, like, of the teams that are going to be like competitive in the playoffs, I think I think that, like, I'm either thinking like Ravens, Derrick Henry, or I'm thinking like Lions. And I think that the receiving element that Jahmyr Gibbs adds, I think would make him, to me, a candidate, because I think that he can literally go for 2,000 on purpose yards. Like, he was close as a rookie last year. It wasn't 2,000, but he was in the 1,000 ballpark of all purpose yards. But I think, with a second year and really knowing what he is and how to use him, I think that he's flirting with 2,000 all purpose yards. And with the Lions expected to be a Super Bowl caliber team, um, I think Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is a guy that I got my eye on as a sleeper.
Yeah, that one I think is going to be really good. I think he's going to be really good. I think what he's able to do, like what everything that you mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised. The only thing for me is like is how much is Montgomery going to take away from his opportunities. But
Yeah,
I
that's true.
it just depends on that's the only thing it really would depend on, because I feel like he should definitely be RB1. He should get majority of the snaps. Even you can even put him out wide and have
And like,
Montgomery in the backfield still.
even if your Falcons prediction comes true, Bijan Robinson is another person I
True.
could see doing it as well.
True. I definitely expect Bijan Robinson to be more of a more intricate piece of this offense. I don't remember who their
Yeah.
offensive coordinator is now, but with Arthur Smith being gone.
It's dude from the Rams. I can't Zach Robinson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like he has a really good opportunity. And moving on, defensive player of the year. I did it. I went with it. Max Crosby with the Raiders. I feel like we're gonna be in more significant games to where he'll get an opportunity to be seen and be able to have more people realize how good he actually is, and he'll finally be able to get that opportunity. Like we mentioned before off camera, I feel like Micah Parsons is another person as well. Um, I'm curious if like Sauce Gardner can put his name in there too, but it just depends on how many interceptions can he get. Uh, but I do feel comfortable saying Max Crosby, Defensive Player of the Year, is my prediction.
No, I like it. Micah, he's in contract year, so like normally when players are in contract year, they ball out. So,
Yes.
I think he's a sentimental favorite, and I think when it comes to votes, that's who voters will end up voting for, because the Cowboys have more televised games than probably anybody. So you're going to see Michael Parsons more, but the addition of Christian Watkins frees and the Raiders actually having a good defensive line to where Max Crosby doesn't have to see as many double teams is scary. He's a 90-15 kind of guy, so he gets 15 sacks, about 90 tackles a year. So his work rate of tackling a lot and tackles for loss. He's like leads the league in tackles for loss by like miles. So it really depends on how good the Raiders are. If the Raiders are a playoff team where they 9-8, 10-7, it should be Max Crosby. But it just really depends on the Raiders' win rate. But he's going to put up the numbers to be in Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I can't wait now that we actually have some people that are on the line that can take away either shine in an instance where if he is getting double, triple team, they can take full advantage of their matchups, or it just even take away some of that. Now it's like, oh, we can't load up on him because we have to pay attention to him or him. Right. And so I think that this is a perfect opportunity for him to be able to put his stamp, put his name in that category with TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa. And so for Coach of the Year, I got Shane Steichen, Indianapolis Colts head coach. I feel like for every reason that I've mentioned so far, some of I mentioned off camera, I feel like what he was able to do as the offensive coordinator with the Eagles, helping develop Jalen Hurts, and then coming over to the Indianapolis Colts, his development of Anthony Richardson, but then still he had Gardner Minshew when he got hurt, and he still had them in the playoff hunt. So I feel like now that you get your guy, you can implement your offense the way that you want it. Here's a perfect opportunity for you to be able to go and try to win a division, put your name in there, and go and get that Coach of the Year. And I have them as a sleeper team, and so that's why I have Shane Steichen as Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I have D'Amico Ryans. I felt like he could have won it last year, but he didn't win it last year. He's not going to sneak up on nobody this year like he did last year, but the simple fact that I think that his team is expected to do well, and if they do well, then I think he's there, and I think he could win it. My other guy that I would want to say is the Packers coach. I can't think of his name because I'm just dog shit tired, but the Packers coach. Yeah, Matt LaFleur. I think he could win it. Just based off the fact, it just depends on what the Lions do. But he's capable of winning the division. If they win the division, I think it could be him. Well, so I'm battling back and forth between Matt LaFleur and D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised that D'Amico Ryans didn't win last year. I feel like that was probably one of the.
Well, it's because the Browns coach had like 16 different quarterbacks. True. And then you go to the playoffs with Joe Flacco. It's like you should never go to the playoffs with a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Like,
true.
Yeah.
Big true. All right. And so last one before we get to the off tops. Most valuable player of the year. I'm going to go CJ Stroud, man. I'm going to stick my neck out there. I think he's not going to have a sophomore slump. I feel like although knowing he's not going to be able to just sneak up on people, I feel like he has the weapons, the ability to throw with accuracy, throw with anticipation, not have turnovers, get it to his playmakers and let them do their thing. I feel like in the end, he's already showed that he's a difference maker. Now he actually has probably one of the better wide receiver rooms in all of the NFL. Mm-hmm. You got Joe Mixon and you're going to be in games just strictly because of how good the defense is playing as well. So I feel like he has every opportunity to get to an AFC championship game, get to a Super Bowl, win the division, and put up big numbers, which is why I feel like he can put his name in that hat for MVP.
I agree. No, that's mine too. I have CJ Stroud for all the reasons that you said. Just better off. They probably got the best wide receiving room, a great tight end room, great running back room, great offensive line, great across the board. And their offensive coordinator, I think, is going to be a surprise candidate, not a surprise candidate, but a future candidate to be a head coach next year. Just because how he develops CJ Stroud, I think CJ Stroud takes that jump and he moves into that like elite echelon of quarterback. So I definitely have CJ Stroud.
All right. And then I'm trying to think what we got here. Where we at? And so not my Super Bowl matchup. is I got the Baltimore Ravens versus the Detroit Lions. Um, I feel like I feel like Dan Campbell is going to learn from his mistakes and not shoot himself in the foot. But I also feel like the play call. I feel like Lamar's going to step up to the plate. The play calling will be different. You can lead. You got Derrick Henry for a reason, so run the ball unless they stop it. And so I feel like both of these should have been the teams that were in the Super Bowl in the first place.
Yeah.
So I feel like they'll learn from their mistakes and get back there.
I don't trust Dan Campbell. He's a degenerate gambler, and like, because it's like, to me, like, NFL coaches don't change. Because it's like why I don't like the 49ers defensive coordinator. It's like you're known for one thing and you didn't stop doing that thing. And the same thing with Dan Campbell. You were known for that one thing and you won't stop doing that one thing. And I think that one thing is always going to cost you because that's who you are. And you double down on that. So for me, I'm going Eagles. I got the Ravens, but I got the Eagles. I'm not big on the 49ers. Well, I think the 49ers are going to be the 49ers, but I don't like their defensive coordinator. I just don't. And it's just hard for me to support this nigga because I don't like him. And then I think the Packers are a sleeper for me. The Packers are a sleeper to me because the Packers did a very good job in the playoffs last year. Their battle tested. They know how to win in the playoffs. I do think that the Eagles' talent is going to be a little bit tough to match, though, right? So I got the Eagles.
Yeah, I can see both, man. I think that Jalen Hurts turned the ball over a lot last year, so if he can bring that down, I know I'm bringing up turnovers a lot, but I just feel like that's a thing. Once you get to the playoffs, you can't turn the ball over. You can't make those like that last throw that Jordan Love had against the 49ers had me like, what the fuck? I'm like, you throw across your body late in an instance where you didn't have to do that. You still got time on the clock.
But the smart thing that they did was add Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs is a bell cow. And Josh Jacobs is a guy that you want to know. He's ready for winter months. Like he has tread on that tire. You know what I'm saying? 100%. So that's the one thing that they didn't have last year is they didn't have a running back because Aaron Jones is a really good running back, but he doesn't stay healthy. Where Josh Jacobs, he's ready for it. He's ready to take a pounding. And then you got the kid Marshawn Lloyd too from USC. So you got two running backs and you double down, and you still got AJ Dillon. So it's like they're battle tested for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season. I can't wait. Do you think Baltimore gets their revenge on Thursday?
They should if they run the ball. You know,
right.
I mean, you signed Derrick Henry to not use him. Like, that's retarded. So they should.
Right. Yeah, I definitely get that. I feel like they should. I definitely got them winning their division, or not division, but I got them winning week 1. And so with the rest of the time we got left, I might even bring up my fantasy teams and have Tar grade them. But we're gonna go Josh Allen off top. We got Josh Allen. They asked, I believe, a little over 100 players, if not just 100 players, who's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. And Josh Allen made number 1 on the list, and they cited his turnovers. Ball security and turnovers were some of the reasons why. Do you agree with the player?
It depends on what he does this year, right? Because with this year being a year where he has less weapons than he has in the year, and if you could take your team to the playoffs, I don't think so. I think that yes and no. I think in the postseason, he has done well in the postseason. I feel like there was that one game, the Tyreek Hill game, where he let his team battle tooth and nail with Patrick Mahomes, got him the win, and then the defense let him up. Right. So it's like stuff like that where he does show up clutch in the playoffs, but he didn't win that game, so you can't blame him. Last year, he did well enough in the playoffs, and his kicker missed the field goal. So there are certain things where, like, you look at the postseason, and you're like, he has success in postseason. Where I look at Dak Prescott, he hasn't done shit in the postseason, right? So it's like, is he more overrated than Dak? It's like Josh Allen's had success, right? And I do understand the ball security and turnovers. Like, that's nothing to sneeze at. But I do look at Dak Prescott having great teams his entire career, right? He's never not had a top 10 receiving room. Like you came in the league with Amari Cooper and throwing the ball to Amari Cooper and like CeeDee Lamb and Des Bryant. Like you've had rooms of good wide receivers and just never could do anything with them when it mattered. So it's like, is he more overrated than Dak? Is he more overrated than Tua? Right? Because I mean, it's too early to say Tua, but it's like if Tua doesn't do anything within the next couple of years, Tua looks overrated as hell.
Right.
So I mean, I get it, I understand it, but
I would go Tua. I think Tua to me is the most overrated because it's like we were questioning whether or not he was the quarterback of the future. Then they get Tyreek, they get Jalen Waddle, they get Mike McDaniels, and the whole thing about the Brian Flores thing, I completely understand that. You can definitely speak life into a player or take life from the player. And I feel like McDaniels, Tyreek, Waddle have now to the point where we look at him completely different. And is some of it him just progressing as a quarterback, or is it them covering up deficiencies? And I feel like the thing about playing in cold weather versus warm weather, he's got to be able to dispel that at some point within this contract that got coming up, whether or not it's this year or next year, because it's pretty much to the point where, like, all right, they get home field advantage. They have a great chance. They got to go on one road game and play somewhere where it's cold, and it's a wrap. And that's the thing for me where I feel like I definitely don't agree with the Josh Allen thing, although I've talked bad about him. I don't think he's overrated. I just feel like he gets this praise that I don't see where some of the criticism that other players get to lift him up, where I don't feel like it's equal.
Right, I agree.
And so next up, Trent Williams finalizing a deal with the 49ers, or finalizes a deal with the 49ers. How important is this? Where would you rank him and the importance to that offense?
Oh, he's the best. He might be the best left tackle in football. I believe he's like a 92% win rate.
Yeah.
When it comes to not getting the quarterback sack, which is high, and he's 35, 36, and he's still winning. So you got to keep the quarterback upright. You're in a division with some pretty quick and strong pass rushers. We're talking about where the 49ers are going to rank in the NFC. Like, you got to block Aiden Hutchinson. You got to block some of these guys in order to stay upright. And in order for Brock Purdy to be a top 5 wide receiver, or a top 10 quarterback, he needs to stay upright. Like, you've seen the games last year when he didn't play. Did the 49ers win those games? Absolutely not. So he needs that, and then you're talking about a team that likes to run the ball. Trent Williams carves that lane up for Christian McCaffrey to run through. So he's definitely important for sure.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely important. I feel like if he's not one, he's two. And I feel like when him and Christian McCaffrey both went down, they look like a completely different team.
Yeah.
Which is where I understand some of the things that they say about Brock Purdy. Because I feel like in that moment, if you're that guy, you can't look like a whole nother quarterback. And it took him like a game or 2 to 3. I think he might have missed 3 games.
Yeah.
And then by that third game, I believe they played the Browns, and they were in the game, but he ended up losing it in the end. But I do feel like
it was the Bengals. It was the Bengals. It was because the team you mentioned earlier that started the 3 game. It was the Browns, Vikings, and the Bengals. That was the 3 game losing streak.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's like if you're trying to get rid of this criticism that people say, oh, you need the super friends in order for you to be that guy, these are moments where you got to step up. And I just didn't see that. So it's like, for me, I realized that Trent Williams is, if not, he's most important, if not number 2. And it's like, it's crazy just thinking about him, because I seen someone talking about him and they were like, oh yeah, when you play pickup, as big as he is, he played a point.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen them clips where they send him in motion? on
Yeah,
a sweep, and it's like, bro, that's not fair.
he's a super athlete. He still works out with Adrian Peterson in the offseason. So it's like,
That shit crazy. But Brian Dayball takes over play calling, which I'm actually kind of surprised that he wasn't doing the play calling.
no,
Because
it
I'm
was
like,
Mike. It was Mike Sullivan. Yeah.
because wasn't he doing the play calling in Buffalo?
Yeah, he was a play caller in Buffalo. He's been a play caller damn near his entire career. Like, to me, he's one of the. He's up there with. There's no Andy Reid, but I'm saying
Yeah,
like if there's a next echelon above Andy Reid or Sean McVay, he's like right there. I always thought
yeah,
he was one of the best play callers in football. Like, and the fact that he wasn't calling them before, I was kind of shocked. But I support this move because of number one, your job's on the line, so it's like you can't put
mm-hmm.
your hands, your job security in somebody else's hands. It's insane. But he's actually one of the better play callers in the league, so I definitely support that move. He should be calling plays.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that when he showed that it's a difference when he's calling plays versus when he's not calling plays, and like to put himself, excuse me, like you mentioned, I definitely would put him in not the Andy Reid echelon, but the tier underneath it.
Right.
And
And then to go back to the Josh Allen thing, I mentioned the Tyreek Hill game. That was his offensive coordinator in that game. And that was when he got Josh Allen was a completely different quarterback. Josh Allen was on bus mode. Then he
yeah,
got Josh Allen, and Josh Allen went back to being MVP. And then when he lost Josh Allen, that's when Josh Allen started throwing them bonehead interceptions. So
yeah,
Brian Daboll was an integral part in that man's career.
very fact, very true. Big facts, big facts. And so Dabo Sweeney is not taking advantage of the transfer portal. Is he making a mistake, and is he past or behind on the times?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I don't know the stat, and I see it, but I'm kind of sad because I think it makes sense. I know they have zero transfer, but I think they were one of three big Power Five schools that didn't utilize the transfer portal. But the thing about the Dabo Sweeney era, right? Like when you think about where he was then to where he was now, like Clemson is no longer that powerhouse of college football. Like you think of when Clemson was really, really good and what made them really, really good. I mean, it was an embarrassment of riches. You went from Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence. You went from, you had Travis Etienne, you had like Hunter Renfro, you had um, at times DeAndre Hopkins, like a little back further. But then you look at that national championship defense, right? Just the national championship defense. You had Cleveland Farrell, who was a first round pick. You had Christian Watkins. You had DeMarcus Lawrence, two all pro defensive tackles.
Right.
You had Isaiah Simmons. You had
Yeah.
AJ Terrell, Trayvon Mullen. All these dudes were like, if not made it to pro, if they weren't all pro, they were first and second round picks. Now it's like you're no longer spitting out these guys. Like you're no longer, producing this. And in this new era of college football, it's like you're on an even playing field now, right? Like it's not just go to Clemson, go to Alabama, and we're win. No, like now it's other teams are able to at least have some breathing ground and catch up. Like now teams are going to Colorado. Now teams are going to Nebraska. Now teams are going, so wherever they afford. And now you as Dabo Sweeney and Clemson, you look like a JV team. Like
Right.
before, like the team I just mentioned that won the national championship game, you play them against Georgia, you're in there with Georgia. You might be beating the brakes off of Georgia, but now Georgia's beating the brakes off of you because you can't compete with them because they're more physical than you on the offensive line. They're more physical than you on the defensive line. They have a better quarterback than you. They're better than you in every which way. And it's now because you can't compete. And now it's your ego that won't allow you to get better players to compete with the Georgias, the Texases, the Alabamas of the world, right? And that's on you, Dabo Sweeney, to adjust with these times. And what I've noticed with this subject is a lot of this is not just a college football topic. This is a college basketball topic too. Like this is why you're starting to see the Roy Williamses and the Mike Krzyzewskis and retire, right? This is why you're starting to see Nick Saban's retire because they don't want to adjust with the times either. Like they just it's like you can't compete. And then like you look at John Calipari, like he's leaving Arkansas. Like he wasn't successful at Kentucky his last 3 or 4 years because he's not able to get these McDonald's All-Americans that he used to get. Right now, everybody is on an even playing ground with you, and they're getting these McDonald's All-Americas that you used to get, and now you're stuck with trying to have to build a program, and if you've never built a program before, now you're sucking, right? So it's just one of those things to where like the landscape of college had really changed, and like Dabo Swinney is just caught in the crossfires of that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that I feel like his downfall kind of started with certain ways that certain things he put in his thoughts that he put out in the media. And then on top of that, not getting with the times, it's kind of not realizing like the player that you need to make your program be successful. It's like you're thinking like, oh, I'm the one that made all of this happen. So I don't need to go with the times. They just gonna do what I want them to do. And it's like that just doesn't work anymore. At some point, you have always needed players, but you're not the best coach anymore because you have other coaches that can go in, sit in living rooms, and actually identify with the kid,
right,
and get them to their program. Where you don't have that cachet anymore,
right? And a strike to his ego, really quick, had to be when Alabama didn't even approach him to coach Bama, right? Because everyone has always said when Nick Saban retires, Dabo Swinney was going to be next in line, and they didn't even call Dabo. Like they went Kalen DeBoer. He didn't even get a phone call. He didn't get a text. He didn't nothing, right? They weren't interested in Dabo, so that kind of had to be a strike to your ego too. And you started off at Alabama. You were a graduate assistant. You played wide receiver there. They didn't even hit you up, so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so we talked about it off camera. I don't think we talked about it yet on camera. FSU is upset again, losing to Boston College after losing to Georgia Tech. But like I've said going into the AP rankings, I dislike them doing a preseason ranking based off of teams where it'd be different if there was a preseason of some sort, where you could at least see how players are matching up against other players. But I had this conversation with my homie when he was talking about them losing to Boston College. They lost 6 starters within the first 3 rounds. And I think it was like 8 or 9 that got drafted altogether, if not 10 of 22 starters. And so it's a completely different team. So to just throw them because they're Florida State, throw them into the top as a top 10 seed or top 10 ranking, I didn't like that. So to me, based off of what I've seen, I don't feel like it's an upset. It's just the fact that it's Florida State losing to Boston College. But DJ, and I always mess up his name, he ain't shown me that he could be anything of what he was projected to be. So I just don't see why Florida State got put at number 10, where it's a completely different team at this point to some degree.
Yeah, and they showed what their weakness is. They can't stop the run on the defensive side of the ball because Georgia Tech ran the ball down their throat. And then, I mean, yesterday it was the same thing with Boston College. And like you said, DJ, his NIL deal should be waste management. That boy is sewer trash. But really, no, I think at this point,
completion percentages atrocious.
If I'm just being honest, if we're being honest, I think that their best chance is to bench him and go with Brock Lynn and him learning how to play tight end, because that's his future. Like he's 6'4", 252. He's going to be an NFL tight end. Like he's not a quarterback. So I think that we kind of already seen what they are and what they are going to be. And I think that you need a jolt in the arm a little bit. So you might as well look at what you got, look at Tate Ronemaker, your backup. You got Brock Lynn. So you got some, I don't know, like if you got some guys, but like you'll never know. Like we already seen what we needed to see with DJ, so it's just, it's time to give it up. I understand, like, I wish you could get a receipt with NILs. I don't know, or like what you're he's not it, bro. Like he's not it. And and I agree with your sentiment. Like we seen it last year without Jordan Travis. Even when you said how many guys that they lost, like they weren't the same team without Jordan Travis, like at all. True. And I want to say, what did they lose their bowl game by? Like 62 something points, 62 nothing, some shit like that. So like that wasn't even promising. So yeah, bro, like I agree.
Yeah, I dislike because, like I said, there's no preseason. There's no way to know how these teams are going to stack up. So it's like, how you going to do this ranking? We haven't even seen them play anybody. Where I've been like, all right, give them like a week or two, and then let's do a ranking. But it's like, yeah, it's going to go crazy. I think they play Memphis next. I think I heard on another podcast that they played Memphis next.
Ooh.
Man, if they go 0-3.
That's where Mike Norvell started at too.
It's got to roll.
Homecoming, yeah.
But ahead of this week's matchup, Coach Prime had some nice things to say. Showed love to Coach Rule, which in a way changes the tune from last year to this year when he started the "This is personal" chant week by week. Do you think that he's changing his tune because he knows what could happen, or is he just genuinely showing love?
I think it's a little bit of both because so last year, Nebraska had a quarterback named Jeff Sims that was absolutely dog shit. He was horrible. This year, you have actually a really good quarterback in Dominic Raiola. And the thing about Colorado, they have the playmakers like for days, right? Like, you got the kid Horn. We obviously know what Travis Hunter is. You got Petaway. So they have that. But their interior on the defensive side of the ball and their interior on the offensive side of the ball still isn't great. And Nebraska genuinely got better, right? And I think last year you were more so giving yourself confidence and trying to figure out who you were as a team. And I think Deion kind of knows who he is as a team right now. And his team still, like, they have one of the hardest schedules in college football. And I honestly genuinely was not impressed last week. I just wasn't impressed. Didn't think they looked good at all. I thought that they went a life or death against an FCS school. And I think Nebraska, with a better team this year, with Dominic Raiola playing and some of the better weapons, they genuinely could beat Colorado. And I think that Deion is kind of humbling himself a little bit, realizing who his team is, right? And so there's strength in understanding that we're not there yet. And last year was just more so that we're going to pump confidence in these guys. They were a one-win team. So if we give them confidence, right? So this year it's more so I know who we are. I know what we are. I'm still confident, but we're not that yet. So right. I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that, like, the thing that kind of worried me, or not kind of worried me, and I brought it up last week, was the issues that they had last year are the same issues that they have this year. And it's like on the offensive side, 50 to 60 yards rushing is not going to get it done.
No.
Then it's like on the defensive side, not being able to stop the run or create a pass rush. It's like at some point, you can't just keep thinking that Shiloh and Travis is going to be able to make, and Shedeur going to be able to make all these plays. And that's the thing for me, is why I bring up the topic, is like, I think he knows, like you said, what his team is. And it's like, all right, let's not piss them off the way they run up the score. Let's shower them with love, and maybe we can catch them when they're not looking, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you all for watching. We got to get up out of here. But like I mentioned before, you want you a good, clean energy drink, go to w.com, promo code JUK, J-U-K, for 20% off. Boy, is it delicious. I'm drinking a powder form, but they do have them in cans as well. And make sure you subscribe at Juke Media or Joint Universal Creatives on YouTube. I think we fell short of the 50 subscribers, but we're still growing month by month. At the beginning of the year, I think we had 20 subscribers. So the fact that we were 1 or 2 off from 50 subscribers, trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. So make sure you go subscribe at Juke Media or Joint Universal Creatives. Like the He Say She Say channel on Facebook. He Say She Say podcast coming back in October, starting production this month. Make sure you go follow Juke Sports Show on Instagram, and then you go follow me, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram at KYNGRALPH at an _ for X or Twitter. And we're out of here.
Peace.
Love.